Hello and welcome to another episode of Prayer Matters. I am Latricia Peak, aka Sweet, and today I am joined with the lovely Miss Richie Glaspie. Hi, Richie.
Hi everyone.
So today we want to talk about obviously prayer, because this is Prayer Matters, but also I wanted to talk to you about just your journey with prayer, what that's looked like. How has it evolved? How has it changed you? And just anything you feel led to share. So for the audience and for myself, what would be your definition of what prayer is?
So my definition of prayer would definitely be a conversation with God. I truly believe, and this is kind of how my own faith was built, is that a relationship requires that intimate conversation. And so that's how my prayer life, I guess you can say, flows, where it's like just that intimate conversation. I started off in my young, baby Christian days, where it was just asking God, hey, how was your day? How's everything going? And just waiting to kind of, feel him responding before moving on, having dates with God, where I set aside certain time to really have that conversation with him. And so that's what prayer is to me. Sometimes it is on your knees, and sometimes it is just meditating and talking to God. Sometimes it's just being in his presence and just drinking all that in. But I definitely think with all that, it just encompasses the whole idea of prayer being that lifestyle.
You said something that I thought was interesting when you were as a baby Christian asking God how his day was, which is too cute. How do you feel like he responds to you, or how did you start to discern how he speaks to Richie?
Yeah, for me it was just this feeling of peace sometimes, especially if I went to him with a concern or anxiety, or thoughts just going crazy. It was just that moment that just flooded over me where it's peace. Mm-hmm. But then there were times where, like I said, I'd ask him how his day was, and it was just like all these thoughts would come to mind as to like, oh my goodness, how many people denied you today? Wow. How many people, it was just questions would just start flowing, where it would just, I guess you could say, initiate these feelings of that would just come to me, where it's like, I never thought about that. How many people, pretty much said they didn't want to follow you anymore, they didn't believe in you anymore, and it just kind of had got me to have a heart for the people. And from there, I felt like that's how God would speak to me, where he would just bring these things to mind, and then it would allow me to pray for these individuals as well.
Was there someone that was really intricate in your life that kind of shaped how you viewed prayer or taught you about prayer?
I would say my grandma and my mom.
Everybody got the testimony of their grandma.
Yes, I had very much a praying grandma. We are Haitian. So I have experienced that spirituality myself, as well as just seeing my grandma walk around and just speak against spirits. And, it'd be 2 o'clock in the morning and grandma would be walking around casting out spirits.
Yeah.
And, at that young age, you're just like, okay, there she goes again.
There she goes again.
But as you got older and you started really seeing, just what the Bible says in terms of we don't fight against, the physical. It is against spirituality, So it's just things like that where it was, okay, I see what she was doing, and that kind of helped me be bold when it came to fighting against, things that were against God.
Seeing my grandmother pray, and there's one particular incident in which she needed something. I don't know, maybe money, some type of a certain amount of money. And I distinctly remember her going in the bathroom. The door was open, and our back window overlooked like a wooded area. Grew up in the country, and it was dark outside. It's like black, pitch black. And I didn't hear all of the prayer, but I know she prayed about the situation because she had just been speaking about it. And literally within hours, someone came to visit her, and the need was met. And it was like, oh, Okay. I didn't view it as you pray to get things. I actually viewed it as she prayed and he answered. Like, so for me, it was like, oh, so there is really someone listening to those prayers. So,
something similar to that too, where my grandma, so as I mentioned before, we're Haitian, and so she's undocumented, so it's not like she could ever work, but she has adult children back in Haiti, and she has taken care of them without working.
Wow.
Just by praying.
Wow.
Whenever they would call her with a need, she would bring that petition to God, and it never failed. She got what she needed.
Wow.
And so just seeing that, okay, so that kind of works, you know. And I won't lie, it was kind of a stumbling block in the beginning of my faith, where I did kind of see God as a genie. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Right.
But as I grew and matured and started understanding exactly what she was doing and how it actually worked, it helped me as well.
If we're going to be open and honest, I think we've all been in situations where we more so wanted his hand more than his heart. And so we've asked for things and petitioned for things and begged for things that did not come to pass. And, you know, you feel like, oh, he's bad. He's out to get me. I felt that way not even too long ago. Like, did you forget about the thing that we talked about?
Right.
But, you know, because he's God and he's sovereign, you trust that he knows the end result that we don't know. But I think a lot of people, if they're honest, have been in that position like yourself. Has there ever been a time for you where you felt like where you found it difficult, like just difficult to pray?
Yeah, I would say there's been at least 2 times for sure that it was just difficult to pray, but at the same time, it was like how I always explain it, it feels like there's like a wall there.
Resistance.
Right, and it's like every time I started to pray, or, you know in your heart you need to pray.
Right.
You know in your heart that that's where it starts. But for some reason, it was just always so hard to even do it. It never failed. I got distracted or something of that sort. But once I got down on my knees and actually started praying, it was just pouring out, you know. And so it was things like that where I was really trying to do it in my own strength. And an example of that is recently, you know, just juggling all the different changes in life in terms of, you know, COVID-19, working from home, dealing with a 1-year-old, you know, there's different things of that sort. And, you know, you just kind of feel like this burden is just on you. And every time you go to pray, it's like, let me go do the dishes instead. Or, you know, let me go do this instead. Or I'll just read my Bible. That's enough, you know. And so it was like I could feel him tugging at me where it's like, hey, we haven't talked in a while. You know, what's going on? And I just couldn't do it. And then one day it was like I was reading my Bible. And after I read my Bible, I usually play a little worship music. And the worship was just like, it just caused me to just stop, you know. I couldn't do anything. I really had no choice but to take on that Mary spirit instead of the Martha spirit. And sit at his feet. I had no choice, and from there it's when it just poured out, and I just started talking to God. You know, it was just like, this is what's going on, this is what's on my heart, and it just started pouring out versus, you know, and I think sometimes we get locked in where it's like, he knows my heart, he knows my problems, I don't need to go to him, you know. But at the same time, it's not that he doesn't know, he is all knowing. But I feel like it is that therapy, it is that relationship building, and where we're submitting to him and allowing him to come into the situation. Because God is a gentleman. He's not going to force himself into the situation until we invite him in.
I think a great deal of prayer has to do with trust. Because the other aspect of prayer has to do with faith. Like you're talking to God out of a place of faith and conversation and intimacy and relationship. But then as the person in the relationship, you also have to trust the answers that sometimes come through the conversation. And God knows that can be challenging. And you know, that's definitely an area where, as long as I've been walking with the Father, and it's been a long walk, I still feel like that's an area of I have moments of struggle bus.
it goes back to everything is for our good, right? And sometimes it's hard to believe that everything is for our good. I've been in situations with a very hostile manager and work environment. You pray against it and just nothing's changing. And it's like, okay, God, I guess I'm just supposed to work in hell. This is it.
This is your plan.
This is your plan. All right, whatever. But what he was showing me was, because I had difficulty when it came to conflict. And so what he was showing me was, sometimes you got to speak up. Sometimes you got to navigate the situation, because I was used to, I'm just going to pray about it and you ain't going to be here much longer kind of thing.
My Jesus.
Yeah, because you don't mess with his anointed ones.
Right.
And so it was definitely a learning curve for me, where it was just like, God started working on me in terms of, well, why do you come to work? What is your purpose at this job? Is it just to be served in terms of having a great manager that's always encouraging you and building you up? Or is it for you to come serve others? Sometimes you got to manage up just like you manage down. And
that's good.
I had to learn all that. And so it was just there was a reason. And I came out with it stronger. And being able to navigate difficult situations a little bit better, and make it a better work environment, not only for myself but for the employees that I manage, and then eventually even for my manager, where she was starting to see herself in a different light. And working on her negative aspect of viewing things and things like that.
Wow, well, this has been such a great conversation. I'm so glad that you decided to join in and just give us some insight about your journey with prayer, and how the Lord has spoken to you and kind of shifted and showed you things. And so I just appreciate you taking time out to be a part. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Until next time, prayer matters.